he was taking photos of Brian Home and photoshopping it into like gay porn and putting it like all over the internet, bro. He was spreading that shit all over the internet. Okay, so 22 unnamed porn actresses have just been awarded $12.7 million suing the pornography company Girls Do Porn. So I brought Dan Berman on with me. Dan, taxation is theft Berman. What's up, man?
What's going on, man?
Chilling, like a villain on penicillin. You know how I do it, man. And so what do you think about this, man? So, okay, so before you give me your opinion, let me just tell everybody who is listening or watching right now a little more insight. So, okay, so there's 22 porn actresses. They go by Jane Doe because they don't want to release their identities to the public. Okay, so they're suing Girls Do Porn. If you are unfamiliar with Girls Do Porn, they basically, I'm very familiar. So they are it's kind of like a more honest, or at least what I thought, a more honest thing of like the casting couch. You know what the casting couch is, right, Dan?
Yeah.
Okay, everybody.
I've heard.
Exactly. You've heard, right? So it's kind of like that. They do first timers into porn. So it's usually like chicks between 18 to 23 ish. It's like their first porn shoot, but this one is more like in a hotel room, and these chicks know that they're doing porn, whereas in the casting couch, which that's real fake, I'm certain of it, so I'm sure that they know they're doing porn too. But this one, they actually like they say that they're doing it, which is really weird because this whole lawsuit is under, it says that they claim that the company Girls Do Porn defrauded and coerced them into performing adult scenes. Now, that to me is kind of fucking crazy because anyone who's familiar with these videos, in the very first few seconds, they actually say things like the guy will say something to the effect of, "So what brings you here today?" And she's like, "Well, I'm going to do my first porn video." So how exactly were they defrauded or coerced into this? What do you think, Dan?
Yeah, I mean, that's one thing. Like if you've got a video and it's like, oh yeah, I want to be, a dancer in the background of a music video, right? And it's like, oh well, we got to go through this process first. Why don't you show me why I should pick you for the video? Like then it's kind of like, okay, was this like planned beforehand? Is it actually fake and scripted? But yeah, if somebody's like just like I don't like, okay, is it, I'm just trying to, let me play devil's advocate and flip this. Some guys like, hey, I really want to film this video with you. It's just for my own personal use, but when I turn the camera on, pretend that we're shooting a porno that's going to be uploaded to the internet for everybody to see.
Okay, that's fair. And what also, so about this specific lawsuit too, here's what they also say. They claim that the company used fake references to, which I think that even in any job interview, people use fake references, but they claim that the company used fake references to lure, and this is them, young low income models into porn under the guise of anonymity. They said, now this hasn't been proven to be in any contract, but apparently some verbal agreement was that Girls Do Porn promised that it would only be sold or put on DVD and only sold overseas, like in New Zealand and places like that. So, real quick, one, if that could still be true, and if those people in New Zealand decided to upload to some website, man, I don't see how that is lying.
Right. Well, I think there's definitely an intent there. I mean, it's, yeah, you're absolutely right. It's not like that's a guarantee that your video is not going to be out there. But at the same time, if they're lying about what they're going to do with it, then they're lying about what they're going to do with it. I mean, consider this too. If somebody buys rights for movie distribution, right? They'll say, oh well, I want to, let's say it's a New Zealand film distributor, and you shot like a full length feature movie, not even adult content, and someone in New Zealand is like, yeah, we want to buy the rights to distribute that movie in New Zealand. And they're going to say, well, it's only New Zealand. You only got so many millions of people. We'll charge you this much for it. They're going to pay for it. They're going to distribute it in New Zealand. Now, if that same company starts distributing it in Australia, Asia, Africa, wherever else, Europe, then not only are they competing with other distributors that the original creator of the content is going to compete with, they're cutting out that market, and they're going to be making a lot more money than what they paid for the actual content. So if you look at these girls like, oh, we're going to give you, I don't know, what are they paying them, $500 to shoot this thing, and it's only going
No,
to be
dude,
available.
dude. Jesus, you are like the worst dude ever, man. You gotta know more about porn, man. So with these porn places, man, especially when they're high up, like girls do porn, they offer them anywhere between like $1,500 to all the way up to like $5,000 for a single shoot, dude, or for a day. I'm sorry, for a day.
That depends on the company. I personally know some people who get paid less than $1,000 per video.
Oh yeah, but I know some
Um,
people here in Philly that'll do that shit for like $50, dude.
yeah, so it's a very wide spectrum, but that goes to how much you're getting paid too. Because if it's kind of that thing like, oh, it's only going to be distributed in Australia, but if it's like, oh, we got worldwide distribution, someone could say, oh, well, pay me more, right? Because more people are going to see it.
Libertarians believe that fraud should be illegal, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So do you consider that fraud if they say that it is only going to be sold in New Zealand and we are not going to upload it online? Is it fraud if someone say that they even it's their own contacts, right? Say if it's their own contacts, they have a man in New Zealand that's just going to upload it to this website. Is it still fraud?
If they know it's going, like, if they're gonna be like, well, I didn't upload it, but my best friend that I gave it to uploaded it, then yeah, that's still kind of in that area of fraud.
So it's basically you base it on like intent, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. All right. So it's based on intent. Dude, this guy, by the way, he was a fucking savage. So his name is Michael Pratt. That's the guy who owns Girls Do Porn. And this guy apparently is originally from New Zealand. And so during this whole lawsuit and shit, the girls representative, his name is Brian Holm. He's their lawyer. And so Michael Pratt was trolling Brian Holm throughout the whole thing. He was taking photos of Brian Holm and photoshopping it into like gay porn and putting it like all over the internet, bro. He was spreading that shit all over the internet during the whole trial, dude. He was such a savage. He's been doing it for years, and he's just been trolling him the whole time. And I mean, hey man, if you're going against a guy in porn, you got to expect things like that. You got to expect things like that.
Yeah, absolutely. So this is interesting though, because there was that other guy. He had a website that was like Girlfriend Revenge or something like that.
Girlfriend Revenge.
So these guys, basically, after a guy would break up with a girl, and they had their own video collection, they would upload their own videos of these girls. And that was like,
is it real or was it some fake shit? I feel like most of it's fake, right?
It was real, but it was like, these guys from, just trying to like, oh, I hate that bitch, I'm gonna upload this video, that kind of thing. And so those girls were suing the sites, but I think that site was even like telling the girls like, yeah, if you give us money, we'll take it down. But that was a much more complicated issue, because like these girls were, they were filming those videos expecting, oh, my boyfriend's only going to have a copy and that's it.
What happens if you have sex in public? Because in public it's like you can record anything in public. Like,
I think if somebody happens to record you, then it's kind of like, well, that was your own problem for doing that.
Right.
There's no expectation of privacy. So, and I think anybody who does it in public is probably like a little bit like, yeah, I hope someone catches us. That would be so awesome.
I knew a girl like that, bro.
It goes viral.
I knew a girl like that, bro, trying to get me to catch a fucking charge, man. Like, you don't understand, man. We black out here, man. I'm going to be the first one. I'm going to be locked up first. Dude, check this out, too. So this dude is kind of sketchy, though. He's kind of seedy. I mean, he did some funny things, but I don't know how I feel about this one. So apparently, and this is allegedly, we don't know, but we do know this. He's fled the country. So he's no longer in the country. He's expected to be back in New Zealand, his home country, but he's no longer in the United States. However, since he's been gone, apparently he's been charged with child pornography for coercing. Well, hold on. It's not a child. It's coercing a 16-year-old into a video, allegedly knowing that was her age. Now, I find this that it usually goes crazy in news headlines and things like that, especially in like, California and New York and like the New York Times or the LA Times or whatever. And they talk about, oh, it was a child and things like that. Now, I'm not defending or not defending, but what I am going to say is that more states in the United States have age of consent at 16 than they do at 18. Only really the big ones have it at 18, like California and New York and Florida. Right. But here in Pennsylvania, it's 16, kind of. But like places like Georgia, Nebraska, and everywhere, age of consent.
What do you mean by kind of? Is it like one of the, you need parental consent kind of thing?
So Pennsylvania, PA is weird, man. So age of consent here is 16, but the statutory rape thing is still 18, which basically means that a 16-year-old can consent to another 16 or 17-year-old. But once they're 18, they can't really. You know what I mean? But in these other states like Georgia and places like that, like age of consent is just 16. So what also I don't understand is if you're going to be doing that, which people can make their own decisions, I think that it should be left up to the state to decide, what age of consent is. I was always raised on 18 and I like older chicks anyway. So I never had that issue, but like I've never really thought about it too much. But if you're going to do that and age of consent is mostly 16 in the US, and you're in porn, then why wouldn't you just fucking be in a place like fucking Georgia, like Atlanta and shit like that, so you don't have to have those issues? You know what I mean?
Well, I think you still have the issue of you're still considered a minor. So even if the sex is considered consensual and you're 17, you're still considered a minor and you don't have you're not old enough to sign a contract kind of thing.
I didn't think about that.
Yeah, so which is ultimately, and actually when a lot of people talk about age of consent, everyone gets into sex, and I'm like, well, hey, what about contracts? Like, because that's kind of a bigger issue to me. Like, you've got minors basically, right? 16, 17 in high school. You're prepping them to go off to college, right? We've got a government school system which is telling them, oh, if you want to be successful in life, you have to go to college. And you're prepping them to sign up for like, you're setting them down a path where they're going to end up with like $500,000 worth of debt. And they're still minors, and they start that process as minors, and they're signing these contracts. And of course they have parental consent and everything, but it's really kind of tricky. You're expecting these kids to make these decisions that are going to affect the rest of their life. If they get one of these loans that they're paying off till they're 80 or 90, which some people are, it's like, it's absolutely insane. But at the same time, it's like, oh, you legally cannot get a cell phone contract on your own because you're and it's like it doesn't really make sense. So I think there's I understand the purpose of it.
So you're saying that regardless if the age of consent is 16, it doesn't really matter because they can't legally, I mean, unless they're like emancipated, or I'm sorry, what is it called?
Yeah, emancipated minors.
Yeah, unless you're like an emancipated minor, or you get some fucking shady at your fucking parent or your guardian to sign off on it with you. It doesn't matter because you can't legally sign a fucking contract, right?
Yeah.
That makes sense.
There's a million different interesting facets to that. But it's it really is. No, it's basically the government saying you're not capable of making any decisions until your 18th birthday, magically overnight.
Now you can sign a $20,000 loan.
Yeah.
But yeah, man. So let us know in the comments. Do you think that do you think that they should have been awarded this money? Do you think they shouldn't have been? Do you think that they knew what they were getting into? Or do you think that the Michael Pratt, the owner, is super sketchy? Let us know in the comments. Make sure you check out Dan Taxation and Steph Berman. He is a 2020 Libertarian presidential candidate, and he wants your vote. Catch me on my next video.